When Valinda Cortez woke up that Sunday morning, rescuing anyone was the last thing on her mind. As the rain poured down, she longed to return home quickly. Unfortunately, her only errand for the day was a brief trip to the nearby convenience store to pick up a few essentials. As Valinda stepped out of her cozy abode, she was met with a scene that tugged at her heartstrings. Sitting in the middle of the rain-drenched road was a sad gray dog, its appearance a sad display of despair. Despite its unkempt state, it remained steadfast, refusing to budge. Initially, Valinda pondered whether the dog belonged to one of her neighbors, but its unfamiliar visage indicated otherwise. Speculating that perhaps the dog was left temporarily by its owner, she scanned the vicinity for any signs of a returning guardian, but the entrance to the nearby convenience store remained devoid of human presence. Approaching the canine, she observed the absence of a leash, exacerbating the direness of the situation. Furthermore, the deserted aisle within the store hinted at the early hour, with most locals likely opting for a leisure lie-in rather than braving the inclement weather. Clad in pajamas and flip-flops, Valinda's original intention of swiftly completing her errand and retreating to the warmth of her bed seemed a distant concern in the face of the abandoned dog's plight. Upon observing the distressed canine, Valinda's immediate concern shifted away from her comfort and daily agenda. Uncertain of how the dog would respond to her presence, she cautiously approached, mindful of the varied reactions dogs had shown her in the past. While some wagged their tails eagerly, this particular dog remained indifferent to her proximity. As she drew nearer, Valinda discerned the dog's gender. Noting the unmistakable signs of desolation etched upon her demeanor, the female dog appeared utterly defeated, as if resigned to a fate of abandonment. Close examination revealed the extent of her neglect. Her once pristine coat now bore the marks of grime and matting, while the absence of one front leg hinted at past trauma left untreated. Reddish spotches on her fur hinted at recent injuries, left unattended to by any caring soul. However, the dog's eyes captured Valinda's attention the most. Dull and listless, they mirrored the bleakness of her existence, with a constant stream of watery discharge betraying her discomfort. It was evident that the constant rain was not the only source of her distress. As Valinda pondered the heart-wrenching circumstances that led to the helpless creature's abandonment, she couldn't fathom the callousness of whoever would leave her in such a desolate location. Giving the dog one final sorrowful glance, Valinda pivoted on her heels and hurried back to her car, her mind racing with urgency. Rummaging through her trunk, she unearthed an old blanket, its faded red hue reminiscent of forgotten picnics and barbecues of yesteryears. Clutching the blanket tightly to her chest, she dashed back across the rain-soaked parking lot, her steps slowing to a deliberate pace as she neared the dejected canine. Mindful not to startle the dog, Valinda cautiously approached. Though her fears were unwarranted, the dog remained rooted to the spot, her demeanor unchanged as if resigned to her fate. Valinda unfurled the blanket with gentle movements, draping it over the dog's shivering form. A slight flinch betrayed the dog's discomfort, yet she remained seated, her expression unchanged. Valinda's heart swelled with empathy as she beheld the dog's sad condition amidst the relentless freezing rain. Envisioning the canine's prolonged ordeal, enduring the elements with no reprieve, she felt a surge of compassion propel her into action. With a delicate yet determined voice, she offered solace to the sad creature, pledging her unwavering presence until aid arrived. The dog's stoic response, neither fleeing or expressing joy with a wagging tail, left Valinda questioning the significance. Was this lack of rejection a glimmer of hope, or merely a symptom of the profound desolation she sensed from the animal? Despite her uncertainty, she clung to the belief that her steadfast companionship could offer some comfort in the face of adversity. True to her word, Valinda stood vigilant by the dog's side, even as curious passerbys cast judgmental glances at her disheveled appearance, clad in mismatched flip-flops and pajamas. Though she couldn't escape the scrutiny of onlookers, she hoped that a select few would perceive the true gravity of the situation unfolding before them. Standing steadfast in the rain by the dog's side, Valinda's mind raced, grappling with the realization that mere companionship wouldn't alleviate the creature's plight. As she strained to conceive a more substantial course of action, her thoughts aligned upon a glimmer of hope in the form of her acquaintance, Sue Massey, known for her dedication to animal welfare through volunteer work at the city shelter. Valinda retrieved her phone, fingers moving swiftly across the screen as she relayed a detailed account of the dog's distress to Sue, sparing no detail in her plea for assistance. With a tinge of desperation, she concluded her message, seeking guidance in her uncertainty. "I don't know what to do," she confessed, the weight of her helplessness palpable even in text form. As minutes stretched into an eternity, Valinda remained rooted in the rain-soaked pavement, her discomfort amplified by the knowledge that she had the luxury of retreating to the warmth and shelter of her own home. In stark contrast, the dog stood alone, bereft of solace or succor. Yet, despite her discomfort, Valinda persevered, her soft murmurs a soothing refrain in the storm, a promise of unwavering support until aid materialized. Though the dog remained stoic, betraying no discernible reaction to Valinda's reassurances, she clung to a flicker of hope, willing the creature to comprehend even a fraction of her earnest entreaties. As she waited anxiously, her thoughts swirled in a desperate search. Evidently, the dog had strayed from her home, yet there lingered a haunting intuition that she hadn't always roamed the streets alone. The canine's serene composure hinted at a past entwined with human companionship, suggesting a former life of warmth and belonging. But how she found herself abandoned in the relentless downpour remained elusive. Valinda's mind conjured scenarios of heartbreak and loss, visioning a tragic narrative where the once beloved pet had been cruelly forsaken. Perhaps her owner had succumbed to fate, leaving her adrift in a world devoid of familiar comforts. Or perhaps she had been callously discarded, condemned to wander in a desolate landscape of neglect. The passage of time blurred into a nebulous haze, obscuring the true extent of the dog's solitary vigil. If only the dog could articulate her sorrow, she would recount a tale of abandonment and longing. It began with a solitary wait in unfamiliar surroundings, her faithful heart clinging to the hope of reunion with her beloved human. But as days stretched into agonizing weeks, the specter of abandonment gnawed away at her spirit, eroding her once boundless optimism. Betrayed by the absence of her cherished companion, she surrendered to the crushing weight of despair, relinquishing all hope of a reunion that would never come. Amid her journey, she found herself confronting the challenges of the road and the callous indifference to her struggles, compelling her to navigate the world's harshness in solitary silence. Scraping by on meager remnants scavenged from the refuse of society's excess, she stumbled upon a familiar haunt, a relic of sunnier days, where the aroma of jerky mingled with eager anticipation as she faithfully awaited her human return. Clutching onto the tattered shreds of that distant bliss, she forged a steadfast resolve to withstand the literal and metaphorical storm, clinging to the hope that endurance would eventually herald the long-awaited reunion with her cherished companion. However, as the relentless rain continued to pour and time stretched on endlessly, creeping doubts insinuated her consciousness, casting ominous shadows of uncertainty upon her once unshakable determination. The prolonged absence of her owner became an enigma she struggled to unravel, grappling with the unsettling notion that perhaps her missteps had driven a wedge between them. When a kind-hearted stranger extended a gesture of warmth, draping a blanket over her trembling form, she hesitated, haunted by the specter of past betrayals inflicted by those who had once worn the guise of benevolence. In a world where genuine kindness was a scarce commodity and treachery lurked in the most unexpected corners, placing trust in the unknown became a daunting gamble she was unwilling to entertain. The woman's words rang familiar, especially "good doggy," which stirred memories of joy associated with treats and park outings from her owner. Yet puzzlement lingered. How did this stranger know those phrases? Her keen ears also caught the familiar sound of a device beeping in the woman's pocket, reminiscent of her owner's similar gadget. Could this be a positive sign? Glancing at her phone, the woman exclaimed, "Guess what, sweetheart? Help is coming for you." True to her word, 20 minutes later, Sue Massey and a shelter worker arrived in a van equipped with a leash for the dog. In a swift and heartwarming turn of events, the dog was whisked away from the rain, embarking on a journey towards a fresh beginning. Upon arrival at the Asheville Humane Society shelter, Sue and her colleague initiated the dog intake process. A veterinarian promptly assumed responsibility for her care, beginning with a thorough examination. Initially, they scanned the dog for a microchip, yet unfortunately, she lacked one, rendering the quest to locate her previous owner futile. Subsequently, the veterinarian proceeded with a comprehensive health assessment. The discharge around the dog's eyes and the improperly healed missing leg were of particular concern, prompting the vet's apprehension. Yellowish discharge around the wound raised alarms regarding the animal's well-being. After careful consideration, the vet administered antibiotics to combat the infection. Mindful of the dog's potential vulnerability after enduring life on the streets in harsh conditions, despite initial worries, the vet reassured everyone that the dog's ailments and injuries were manageable and treatable. Following the health assessment, it was time to treat the dog to a much-needed bath. Fortunately, the shelter's washing facility offered pleasantly warm water for the task at hand. Employing a special shampoo, the staff diligently worked to rid her coat of all traces of dirt. Once thoroughly cleaned and warmed, her coat was carefully tended to, with the removal of the most stubborn knots and tangles. The dog remained remarkably serene throughout the grooming process, displaying stoic composure. Gratefully, she indulged in some water offered to her and eagerly consumed every last morsel of kibble provided. With all these nurturing gestures, a shelter worker guided the dog to a spacious enclosure with ample food, water, and yet another cozy blanket, ensuring her continued comfort. With the sheltering roof above her, she found solace from the biting cold and relentless rain, secure from potential threats. Though her injured stump was tender beneath its bandage, the vet applied ointment to provide relief, albeit accompanied by a slight sting. Lowering her head, the dog drifted into a peaceful slumber. Rest had been elusive during her time on the streets, but now, nestled in the safety of her new haven, she could finally unwind and succumb to a much-needed sleep. A few days later, Valinda Cortez inquired about the dog's progress from her friend Sue Massey. Sue invited Valinda to visit the shelter and witness the transformation firsthand. When Valinda arrived, she was astounded by what she beheld. With proper care and a revitalizing bath, the once struggling dog named Cassie had blossomed into a stunning creature. Remaining at the Asheville Animal Shelter for several days, Cassie received ongoing care to heal for her injuries and combat the eye infection. Upon reaching a sufficient level of health, she eagerly engaged in various enriching shelter activities, including playdates with fellow canine residents, invigorating hikes alongside volunteers, and personalized behavior therapy sessions. Receiving kindness from everyone around her, Cassie found solace in the shelter's caring environment. Though she still longed for her previous owner, she realized she could open her heart to trust and affection from others. Perhaps, just perhaps, these new connections wouldn't lead to abandonment. Cassie radiated beauty in her adoption photo, embodying her gentle and well-mannered nature. Before long, a compassionate family recognized her virtues and welcomed her into their loving home. A fresh chapter awaited her, and she vowed to seize every moment. What a touching conclusion. If you've experienced a similar journey with a rescued animal facing adversity, share your story in the comments below. We're eager to hear from you. Until next time, take care, and we'll catch you in the following videos.